A full turnout would be no miracle at these tiny churches, some of which are so minuscule they don't even have room for an altar. Here we present some of Britain's smallest places of worship, including a dinky cliffside chapel in Pembrokeshire and a stone church in North Wales measuring just 11 feet by 8. St. Govan Chapel in Pembrokeshire, which is named after a 6th century monk, is set on a cliffside overlooking the dramatic coastline. The enchanting place of worship is accessed via a flight of worn stone steps. The tiny building houses a basic stone altar and the interiors are carpeted with patches of moss. There is much debate over how old the structure is, but the current chapel is thought to have been built between the 13th and 14th centuries, but some say it dates to the 10th century, or even earlier. In medieval times people would trek to the structure on pilgrimage, with a holy well offering a cure for everything from bad eyesight to back complaints. The church is associated with various tales and myths. According to legend, St. Govan escaped brigands by slipping through a fissure that opened in the cliffside and built the chapel when he emerged. It's said that his handprints are imprinted on the floor and that his body is buried under the altar. St. Trillo in North Wales measures around 11 feet by 8 feet and has seats for just 6 people. The tiny stone-built church, which dates to the early 16th century, has stood the test of time thanks to sturdy walls that are 2 feet thick. The small altar stands over a natural spring, thought to have been an ancient holy well, and the water is still used to this day for baptisms. Dinky St. Andrew Old Church in Yorkshire is the remnants of a larger structure. The building measures around 20 feet by 13 feet and it is thought the foundations could date as far back as the 9th century. There have been various excavations around the site, with findings ranging from shards of 13th century pottery to a well-preserved 14th century effigy of a knight. The church is now unused and locked, although the churchyard is open. Bremilham Church in Wiltshire is listed in the Guinness Book of Records as Britain's smallest church at just 13 feet by 11 feet. It has 1 pew to seat 4 and there is no room for an altar. 1 service is held a year and despite its tiny size, the church still attracts quite a crowd with attendees spilling out into the grassy yard. The building is the surviving part of a 15th century church and it is Grade 2 listed. For a time it was used for keeping turkeys in by a local farmer until the current owners restored it for its intended use. The church must be contacted before visiting. St. James is said to be the smallest active church in Yorkshire, with just 2 small structures making up the building. The place of worship, which was also thought to have been used as a hideout by smugglers at one time, dates from the Norman period, with a mix of original features still intact. A highlight is a rustic organ near the pulpit, which features beautiful carvings and is thought to date from the 18th century. Access can be arranged with 24 hours notice. St. Faith in Gloucestershire incorporates Saxon and Norman architectural design. The small chapel houses huge wooden crossbeams, which still bear the axe marks of pillagers. Other interesting features include spectacular stained glass windows, a Jacobean canopied oak pulpit, oak benches dating from 1597, fine altar rails from the 17th century and a 15th century altar. Open every day. St. Ethelburga the Virgin is one of the few surviving medieval city churches in London. It was first formally recorded in 1250 as the Church of St. Ethelburga the Virgin, but it's thought the foundations date back even earlier. It suffered minor bomb damage during World War II and was almost destroyed by an IRA bomb in 1993. There was a proposal to demolish the building after the event, but after much public outcry it was rebuilt and formally reopened by Prince Charles in 2002. Open every day. Good Shepherd, which dates from the 13th century and is surrounded by countryside, is the smallest church in Sussex. The neat stone building measures 16 feet square, and seats about 20. There is no electricity and evening services are conducted by candlelight, with songs of worship accompanied by a pump organ. Open daily from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. St. Bruno in Somerset is set in a secluded woodland area. The charming church, which is dedicated to a 6th century saint from North Wales, has a mix of Saxon and Norman design features. A quirky addition includes a small spire clad with slates, which was tacked on in the 19th century. Open every day. St. Fillan, in the Scottish village of Killen, is a Victorian structure built from corrugated iron sheets on a wooden frame. This style of architecture was popular at the time as these flat-pack religious buildings could easily be erected. St. Fillan was built in 1876 by the 7th Marquis of Breadalbane as a place for his shooting parties to worship, and the building was nicknamed the Govan Chapel. Open by arrangement. Govan Church, located in the Scottish village of Ardguy, owes its origins to the 1823 Parliamentary Act for building additional places of worship in the Highlands and Islands of Scotland, which green-lighted the building of 40 churches to standardised designs produced by Thomas Telford. The small place of worship is known for the messages etched on the church window by families cleared from the surrounding land in 1845 as part of the infamous Highland clearances. This event saw the forced eviction of inhabitants in the area in a bid to clear the land of people, to allow for the introduction of sheep farming. People were also said to have camped in the churchyard during this period. Open every day. The little church at Collintrave in the Scottish Highlands is dwarfed by the hilly scenery surrounding it. Set by the shores of the Kyles of Bute with a hill running behind it, the white structure was completed in 1840. The interior is said to be plain and bright, but there are some striking stained glass windows looking out over the waters beyond. Open every day. St. Mary the Virgin is a tiny church located in the wind-swept wilds of Powys, South Wales. It is said to be difficult to access in the winter, with heavy snows blocking the country road, and heavy rains making it tricky to navigate come the summer. The church was built in 1762 as a chapel of ease. Inside it is described as being simple, with a very small stone-floored chamber, wooden seating, a minute gallery, pulpit and altar. Open to visitors.